Welcome to the Making Schools Work podcast, a podcast for everyone in education. This show is brought to you by the Southern Regional Education Board. At SREB, we believe that every school has the potential to be great. Whatever you do in the school, whatever your job may be, let's talk about things that make schools work.
Welcome to the Making Schools Work podcast. I'm Daniel Rock, and I'm here with Aaron Anderson Williams. How are you today?
Dan, I'm looking forward to another great episode on our podcast.
All right. Today, we are talking to Bethany Wilson. In 2019, Dr. Wilson opened the doors of Gladeville Middle School in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. Gladeville has earned Level 5 TVAAS growth. That's the highest possible rating for student academic growth in Tennessee. And she's had that in her school for 5 consecutive years. It's been named a reward school, earned a letter grade A 3 years running. U.S. News and World Report ranked it number 1 in Wilson County, the 24th ranked middle school in the state of Tennessee. Dr. Wilson was named Tennessee's statewide National Association of Secondary Schools Principal of the Year and represented the state at the National Education Leadership Awards in April. She was also recognized as an AI innovator at the ASU and GSV Summit in San Diego. Are you ready to talk to Dr. Wilson, Aaron?
Let me tell you what else is awesome. She's going to be at our summer conference this year speaking. I cannot wait for what she brings to conference this year.
That's right. Dr. Wilson is joining us as part of our featured speakers from our Leadership That Works learning community, part of our national conference. If you're part of that community at the conference, you can hear her speak. Let's bring in Dr. Bethany Wilson. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Good morning.
What do you have going on at Gladeville Middle School?
Today we're doing subparts 2 and 3 of math. The radio's been going off. Does this kid have the right calculator? Are we doing okay on time? The joys of TCAP are upon us. We're almost done. Everyone's tired, but we're feeling excited, anticipating results that we hope will be great, but also just that the kids and the students can have some fun afterwards and feel some relief.
How are they going to have fun afterwards?
We've got shaved ice on Friday. We got extended recess. And then for the teachers, next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. One of the things we love here at GMS is our awesome PTO. They spoil us. We wear stretchy pants, Teacher Appreciation Week, because we have all the food and the snacks and the crumble cookies and all the things that's fun. And then we have field day coming up. We have 8th grade day. We have field trips. We have our 5th graders who will come here next year, come visit. So I always love May. It's like May mania for all of us in the education world, but it's fun. We get to celebrate and recognize our students. We have academic awards coming up, all the things that make the end of the year fun and celebratory.
All right, let's go back. You started the school in 2019. So you started a school, you went into COVID, and you came out of COVID. So after all of that, as you walk around, what are some things that you look around and you're just so proud of that you've built at this school?
I'm proud of the level of focus. When I walk the halls and walk into anyone's room or just peek in the window, I see learning happening and joyful learning. We're not perfect, but we are focused. We are about learning here. We are about business. That is not at the expense of any sort of fun, because in my opinion, and I'm a big nerd, I believe that learning is fun. I believe that all students love to learn. They do. They want to learn. And we have teachers here who are just the rock stars of the world. Opening a new school, you think a lot at the beginning about the building and how cool it is and how beautiful it is and the shiny floors and the brand new equipment. It was fun to get to shop. I got to shop like crazy and pick out uniforms and band instruments and all the things. But I knew from the beginning, and when I met with cohorts of teachers who were thinking about applying, I said, this is not going to be about the building. I can tell you that the building is the least interesting and exciting and wonderful thing. So please don't come here because you want a nicer looking classroom or new desks. We can take care of that, of course, but I want you to come here to build something. So I tried to be very intentional about that. And I said, also, please don't come here because you don't like your current school. That's not a reason to go somewhere new. I want you to come because you want to build something together. And when I walk around, I'm proud to see the level of cooperation and coordination among the teachers. They are always out in between classes chatting and joking around. To me, that's the hallmark of a school you want to be in. There's a lot of research to support if you're friends with your coworkers and you feel safe and comfortable with them, that coming to school hopefully will be a joy. And it makes this time of year when it is stressful tolerable, right? Because we're in this work together. And I really see a level of cooperation here that I'd never got to experience as a teacher. That was part of my goal, was when I taught at 4 different schools, all different types of high achieving private school. And I taught at Hunters Lane High School for a little while, which is a very difficult inner city type school. And I always wanted some things to click into place. And that's the type of school that I really aimed to build, was the type of school that I always wanted to teach in.
Now, you have had level 5 TVAAS growth for 5 consecutive years. Explain to someone who's not in Tennessee what that means. Then tell us a little bit about how that happens.
So TVAAS is the Tennessee Value Added Assessment System, and it is the way our state measures student growth. You're hard pressed in the TVAAS system to even find an achievement level. It's really, the whole site is not built for that. So you get your achievement first, and then you sit and wait all summer for your growth because you know that's the real ball game. And what it basically means, by the time students get to us in 6th grade, they have taken their state assessments at least 3 years. We also do the 2nd grade optional test. So they've taken 4 years. And so that model is just a statistical model to predict, based on what they've already done, where they should hit that next year. That's all it is. It's taking the compendium of what they've done to predict future performance. It's not a boogeyman. It's not a scary thing. If a kid's always been around the 70th percentile in math, it's going to predict that they're going to do that again. And if a teacher makes that happen, they hit at the 70th percentile in math, they're going to get what we call 1-year growth, which is, all we expect in the world is that every year we learn the content and we maintain. The way you get to level 4 or 5 is by exceeding that prior year's performance. So when you can get the kid at the 70th percentile to the 73rd and the 76th and the 78th, you get incremental growth. And for my kids, every kid, that's what we want. And our high achievers and our on grade level kids, and getting that growth is really good. But it's life-saving and life-changing for students who start out behind the ball, whether they've had struggles or difficulties. Getting level 5 growth means they're exceeding that 1 year of expectation, and we are closing gaps and we are getting them to grade level. So a kid going from the 30th percentile in 3rd grade and we get them to the 50th in 6th grade, that is a celebration, and that can have lifelong trajectory consequences for that student. Here at GMS, about 20% of our students tend to score at the 90th percentile and above. It is wonderful, but it also has presented distinct data challenges for us because we have to be fine-tuned and focused on how we approach our tracking of the data and how we set goals for students. For those kids, the margin of error is very small. And what we have to do is make sure they know where their starting point is and put that goal in front of them. It's not really about pressure and stress, but just, hey, look at this. Last year, you got 87% correct on TCAP. Let's get to 89 this year. And they do it because it's a very focused goal, and those kids need something different. One of our 8th grade ELA challenge teachers ran with this challenge last year. And we're not a magnet school, and we're out in Wilson County. We are not Williamson County. And this cohort of her students ended up having the 2nd highest achievement in the state.
Wow.
Achievement. And we bragged on that like endlessly in faculty meetings because we're not a magnet school. And what that teacher was able to do was to stay focused. And she got 37 perfect scores on the writing assessment. And she kept the goal right there in front of those kids all year long. And they loved it. There was not a sense of misery or fear or stress. They were pumped up every day that they were the smartest. And I always say Gladeville kids can compete with anyone in Tennessee, anyone in the country. And you have to know we are in like a cornfield here. So when I say our kids can compete with anyone across the state, I don't care if they're in a magnet school, Hume Fogg, Central Magnet, Merle, Hyde, I don't care. Bring it on. They can do it. They're smart and we treat them as such.
So Gladeville students are children of the corn. I think I saw that movie about them.
Yeah.
Is that what they're like, those guys?
The first year we had to really fight all the former inhabitants of the property. So there are ants everywhere trying to get in. We have goats out on the baseball field from the next door farm, and the goats somehow get into our baseball field, and which is awesome. Like in the summer, they come help trim the grass for us.
That's nice.
I love that we have a little bit of everything. We have kids from all over the world here, multiple languages, multiple backgrounds. We have kids who are living on farms, but we just saw who we are.
Something I want to just pause on that I heard you say that I just think is fascinating. The first thing you started talking about, the students understood their goals. That's not necessarily common in a lot of schools. Is that a big part of success on TVAAS, giving that level 5?
It's the only way, particularly if you have a high achieving population. But I want to share, I have a new teacher this year. I used to teach with her. I was thrilled when she came to join our staff. Now we've got Miss Boswell, and she has mostly standard kids in 8th grade math. So everyone knows by 8th grade, you're stratifying. You've got Algebra 1. We even have honors, and she has almost all standard. So powerful in communicating, not only with students, but parents. Some of my parents have said, I've understood TVAAS for the first time this year because she took the time to send out a PowerPoint to her parents. She was relentless about putting that message in Parent Square and asking if they looked at it. When she sets student goals, she has a population this year that can tend to be our most vulnerable. I call them the kids that they've not hit proficiency in math and they're 8th graders. We know at that point, what's the hope for Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2? It's very slim chance that if you've not become proficient by 7th or 8th grade, that you're going to go on to a great math career. But she's flipped the narrative with them about goal setting, and those kids have been confident. I have seen kids light up in her class this year because she's been able to frame with them what standardized tests are and how they're not designed for most people to get 100. So a lot of kids feel like if I can't do super well, then what is the point of trying? Because I know there's kids out there. So reframing to them that standardized tests are not built that way. They're a norm referencing concept where they're supposed to sort everyone out. But also, if you're at the 60th percentile, your goal may not be to be an advanced student. But if you can get here, then you are successful. They really bought into that. Some of those kids who are moving from a 1 to a 2 in Tennessee, that means a below to an approaching. It's hard to get them excited about that. And she's done it. I mentioned about the top tier of learners, but we also have seen that work with every type of learner to set a reasonable goal that they can accomplish and feeling proud of that goal when they do meet it.
Erin, you travel all over the country working with principals like Dr. Wilson. Can you talk? What are you hearing, what she's doing around goal setting, around student buy-in?
I am hearing the right work. And I'm hearing a principal that is passionate and believes in the ability of all of the students. Like Dr. Wilson, as you're talking, student vulnerability, right? Oftentimes across the country, when I'm working with principals and we're looking at growth data, achievement data, the language that we use around the data really speaks to what we believe about the learning and the learner. Here's positive achievement language, like you can achieve this goal, whatever the goal is, collaborating with the student to understand their goal, to build that confidence in themselves that they can reach that goal, and the confidence in the teachers about how they approach relationship with the student around the learning and keeping that goal in front of them.
I'm a principal, and one of my priorities is student goal setting because we know that's a key practice. Are there any basic tips or, strategies that you encourage teachers to do or that you're seeing your teachers do that you celebrate that really helps them build into their instruction?
First of all, just digging in and learning, taking the strengths-based leadership tests through the Gallup assessment. My number one is always learner, just being willing to learn and being vulnerable. And this is an area where I feel like I have failed numerous times and learned how to regroup and do it better. I think it's no secret that a lot of people can get intimidated by math and data and numbers. It's a lot to understand.
Right here.
I have had many bad moments of trying to bore my teachers with statistical discussions of how TVAAS works. And I have learned to stop that because it's really not that helpful. And I learned that from a colleague of mine, Dr. Amber Gilbreth. I felt like I had given the same talk 3 or 4 times, and she came in and gave the same talk with relatable language and cut out some of the nonsense and got to the point and gave great examples. My teachers were like, that was so great. I learned so much. And we all know that as teachers, the lesson we put in front of our students has to connect. So I've stopped getting too much in the weeds with the teachers and tried to present things to them that are actionable. I think that's helped them because they're busy. They don't have time to learn about statistical modeling. It's boring. So we just have to look at, hey, here's the salient point. This is where your kids are. Here's where you need to get them. And how can I help you as your leader? I made some spreadsheets for my ELA teachers this year, and they were like, that was really good. I highlighted all the kids who were on the struggle bus, and I highlighted all the ones who were growing in one color and set it up for them. I didn't ask them to do that work, and they were appreciative. And I'm like, well, geez, you're an idiot that it took you 7 years to figure out what to do for them and then how to frame it for them to use it. But also the teachers that have had such great success, they just keep it at the forefront. And I think there's a lot of weaponization of data and how it's used. It's used to beat people down. I think it's really important that leaders learn how to frame it. That's one of my biggest growth areas I have seen in myself is figuring out how to use accountability. I'm still learning. I don't know if all the teachers feel that it's positive yet, but I'm still learning how to use that accountability model and the data as a goal and an inspiration rather than a stressor and something you should feel badly about.
Or fear.
Fear of being shamed. And I might have level 1 growth data and all that.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's scary for the kids. I've asked students, I'll say, hey, why don't you turn that in? I'll have a lot of assignments. And of course, I would say in their backpack, but now it's all on the computer. I'll say, hey, you have 3 zeros. Why didn't you turn something in? And almost always they will tell me I wasn't done yet. I didn't think they were right. I didn't finish it. I had 2 left. And there's so many opportunities that our students, our teachers, even leaders, that we don't hit our goal because we're afraid or we just don't want to put ourselves out there with that failure. I think we have to normalize the fact that it's hard and that there's risk taking involved, but we also have to realize we've got people around this building who've been level 5, 6 years. And I just say, hey, go do what they're doing. It works. I know we'll talk about PLCs later, but that's a huge leverage point, especially when you hire brand new teachers, because wrapping your head around the TVAAS model, the achievement, growth, subgroups, and how those count. In Tennessee, we have 2 systems. We have the federal system for reward school. We have the state system for letter grades. They're totally different. There's so much jargon you can get lost in. For me, I'm learning how to simplify it, make it actionable, and take some of the load off the teachers so that they can focus on what to do with the data.
I'm going to go a little bit off of our planned conversation, which is that data is out there. You talk about a teacher who might fear being shamed. And maybe this year, my growth data isn't great. What are some leadership practices you recommend that aren't shame, but that help them feel confident that they can and then actually do make that change? Because that data can be intimidating.
For all of us, we have to have a growth mindset. Last year, I had a teacher and we were in that boat. And I was so proud of him because he said, look, I'm going to change this and I don't have a big ego and I want you to tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. One thing that I added in this year is I held individual meetings with every tested teacher when we got that back. I sent it to them. They were leading the meeting, not me. And all we did was look forward. I'm like, this is an autopsy on last year. So we can look at your strengths. Even if you had weak data, you might have had like it's in a report for our model that's in quintiles. So you have in these 20% increments. And sometimes I've had teachers where their high achieving students were negative, but their low achieving students had growth. I'm like, look, okay, what did you do with this group? Yeah, you had level 1 or 2, but this group was like a 5. So what was that? And then they can tell me and we can use that. And I would tell leaders that letting the teachers have the conversation. I had 45 of those, maybe 50. I can't remember how many tested teachers I have. And only 2 were challenging. The rest of them were positive. The teachers came in and they owned it and it was confidential. It was just me and them and sometimes an AP and we looked forward. And so that's the number one thing is give the teachers the opportunity to think about it and reflect on it and share. And are there going to be, if that's not the culture of your school and you roll out individual data meetings, and that could be really a big shift for your teachers, right? And so framing it and keeping it positive, you have to keep forward focusing language. You also have to know we're all humans in this. And if you have someone come in without a growth mindset, then that's an indication to you as a leader of that person that you're going to have to work with. Our obligation is to the student, to their success. That's who we serve. The teachers are the most crucial people doing that work. As a principal, I can't go in and take over your math class. So if you find someone that's really in that mindset, that's the 1 or 2 people you have to focus on and think about how to build them up. And it's hard. It's human people work. It's figuring out emotions and all that baggage. But I think the most important thing is keep the conversation centered on the students. Because what you tend to see in those conversations, and it'll eventually come out, there'll be some excuses occasionally or some student blaming. And then you got to lean into that, talk it out. Students will do exactly to a T what they're expected to do. At the end of the day, students do what the adult in the room asks them to do, expects them to do, and follows through that they'll do. And that's just this long and short of it.
That's a core belief you have. Some teachers don't believe that. The behaviors will signal difference. Oh, they didn't hand in this assignment. Oh, they didn't study. So there'll be a behavior, and then the teacher will use that behavior to change their belief. Oh, I need to change my expectation. And what you're saying is, no, if you maintain that expectation, it may not happen all the time, but long run, through the year, if you maintain it, they will believe in it and they'll move towards that.
They will believe in it and they will do it. One of the hardest areas I see is math and kids not doing their math homework outside of class. They don't do their Alex topics. They don't do it. And of course, because they don't do it, they're not going to learn. My question this year has been, what are you doing for the 55 minutes when they're in front of you? I think that using class time well is really crucial. We have an old, outdated model sometimes of talk, students listen, then they get to work for 15 minutes and they kind of slow roll that so they don't have to actually do it. And then the bell rings and the teacher says, oh, finish that tonight. And it's a very damaging process because you get this cycle of not doing work and not learning. Whoever's doing the talking, thinking, doing is doing the learning. So once they've shifted in the classroom to do it, being accountable to do, then what you tend to see is the outside of schoolwork increases as well, because they're 11, 12, 13 years old. They're not going to go home and do math for fun if they don't understand it. I truly believe the barrier to students sometimes doing work is gaps. And we all do what we are successful at, what we know how to do and what we can do. Keeping that focus on doing it now, holding students accountable to doing it then, supporting them in that learning. A lot of those teachers that are struggling with that, they're doing all the work and the students are not following through, and we cannot control their home life. We can only control what's happening in this building. And that's why what happens in the building is so crucial. what happens in the building is great. You'll see what's happening outside of the building increase, whether that's homework, projects, whatever.
When you present, you talk about moving as a leader from doing, and as the teacher also from doing to leading the classroom. From a leadership, from an administrator perspective, can you paint a picture of what it means to be a leader, a doing leader versus a leading leader from the principal's perspective?
During my first year as a principal, it was very difficult for me being in a unique situation of opening a school. You're the first employee. So you're like the only doer for a little bit. And then you kind of start to pick up people along the way. You hire. So I got to hire an assistant principal and a bookkeeper right away. And I loved that. I talked to them about everything, but I was still doing a lot of stuff because I was the only one. So I was writing the handbook and we were figuring it all out. Like, what's this school going to look like? And it's sort of like when you have a kid and you buy all the stuff for the nursery and you got it all perfect. And then the baby arrives and you're like, what do I do now?
And he pukes all over the sheet.
Yeah. That's the last time your baby nursery is going to look perfect until this living, breathing, wonderful little baby is part of it. You know, we spent all this time working and making things like PLC protocols and the beautiful handbook and all that. And I was a first-time principal. So my AP and I were in the AP mindset. I was thinking like a principal, but my work experience was an AP. And I think we can all agree that APs are like the workhorses of schools. They just grind. Okay. Yeah. They do discipline all day. They do supervision. They do card duty. They are at IEP meetings and 504 meetings. They're doing the testing. They're just grinding it out every day. And that's what I was used to doing, just grinding. I was trying to do that when the school opened and all the teachers were here. I was the face of the school and the PTO. I was exhausted because I was in this never-ending grind, but I was also trying to really be, the positive leader. And one of my supervisors, she's moved on. She works with SCORE now, I believe. But she said, hey, Bethany, remember, you're not an AP anymore. You can't just work yourself into this place of success. And she shared another story that stuck with me about, I think her dad had said, when you lead, you're only leading if you look behind and people are following you. And so you can lead through compliance, right? But it doesn't get the job done. I mean, everybody comes to work and wants to do what their boss says. So I started to really think a lot about how to build capacity, share the knowledge. And I will say that I am like an ultra type A. And I struggle a little bit with control and trust because I think those of us who are that way, we just like to we hate group work and we like to do it all. We don't trust anyone else to do it. And that has been another area of growth for me. Leading is very humbling because you realize all your flaws. Every month, you realize how your flaws can hold you back.
All get revealed one by one.
I have an aspiring leadership group, and I told them the hardest thing is you're so vulnerable. I love how Todd Whitaker says, when the principal sneezes, the school gets a cold because you influence everything and you don't get to have the off days, the bad days. People notice, everyone's looking at you. So I had to start thinking about how to really expand the work to being we work and not I work. I've always loved having thought partners. So my assistant principals, we are very collaborative. We're very much an admin team. I know some schools it's not like that, but we meet as a team. We PLC every week, asking for feedback from the teachers. If you ask, they will give it to you. I started having our leadership team write the strategic plan. They have written the strategic plan with the exception of the first one that I wrote every other year. There's a lot of busy work part of it that I will do later because they don't have that much time. When thinking about who to tap, you can't include all your teachers. So I looked at the best teachers and what they were doing. When I think about how to build capacity, it's about amplifying your top talent, making sure people know about that, what they're doing. With the shared leadership piece, it's really just inviting people to the table. I also have an air sometimes where I cannot be the most approachable leader. Again, this is just Bethany airing all my flaws here in the podcast. It's like confession time,
Yeah,
right?
tell me about your mother, Bethany.
Yes.
What she?
Just being unapproachable is something that I had to work on too. I have to be super intentional. One of the things I've started doing more of is one-on-one meetings. The teachers have given me that feedback of wanting much more individual talk time, but then also putting things on that leadership team. So there are things that personally I have thought about changing and I have brought to the team. So we started using homeroom. At the end of the day, it was a good time for students to see teachers for extra help and get a start on homework and help prevent kids signing up for baseball games or missing math class. We got our data back and it was fine. It was a little down. So I brought that to the leadership team this year. I'm like, I don't know if this is working for us, guys. And they made their case. Nope, we believe in this. So I listened to them. They have a strong say in what goes on around here. I think that's crucial. Part of the moving from the doing to the leading, inviting as many people to the table and really listening to them, which I'm not the best listener at times.
What's powerful is that, number one, you're very self-aware. Recognize the challenges of the way you work or personality things. Self-awareness as a leader is important, but you have chosen to lean into those things and invite your teachers to help you build your capacity to be a good leader while you're also building theirs. That's a perfect example of what you're talking about. We work, I work. Right? If we're going to challenge our teachers, Dan was sharing, I'm a senior leadership coach. I work primarily with principals and their leadership teams across the country to build this capacity of how are we leading and creating culture in the school. But oftentimes my work starts with, okay, let's look at self. What are the beauty and the beasts of this team? Where are the monster at 6:00 in the morning before you've had your coffee and the team is like, hey, I need this. And you're like, and teams don't bother her right now. She hasn't had her coffee. That affects how we work together, how we lead together, how we support the bigger lift. And if you're not self-aware as a leader and willing to put yourself in a position to build capacity and change and grow yourself, you can't model or expect other people to do the same. So I commend, even in this confessional on podcast, this is my thing. But I really do believe what the listeners are going to take away is that you know your thing, but you're also building your own capacity and allowing your teachers to give feedback to support you in being the best leader that you can in your school for them and for the students that you all serve together.
I've had lots of personal failures, things that went wrong. If you're not really having things go wrong in leadership, you're probably not risk-taking enough. But I would ask you, Erin, think of the failures you've ever had where you worked collectively. It's so rare when you work with people and you do it right and you have a collective vision and you launch that into the world, the chance for failure diminishes because you've got the input on the front end. I think I am self-aware. It's hard sometimes to be self-aware. You don't want to be self-involved. You can sit on the psychoanalyst's couch all day and think of all your problems, but there's work to be done. And sometimes I'm like, well, this is me. This is who I am. I think my teachers are used to me by now. They know I'm type A. They know I love academics. I do look for them to round me out. I've got a gentleman on my leadership team and he's so nice. You want to go talk to and give a hug. And he's always got this big smile on his face. He's so warm and kind. We need him. I need him because I'm always like, let's get stuff done.
Yes.
That stresses people out. I believe school culture is a beautiful thing. We have this tapestry we weave together. And we have your data wonks and your culture people and your laid back people and your coaches and your athletes. And this is how our student body is too. We have our artsy kids and we can't have a successful school without diversity. Sometimes we talk about diversity with our skin color and our gender, but diversity is about the multifaceted fabric of who we all are and what we bring to the table and how different we are. You want a school full of differences, but you want to be moving towards the same goal.
Yes. And it's so good for bringing such great things to mind. I can remember I would confess oftentimes as a principal, I'm like, okay, guys, I'm a driver. I'm a worker. And if you ever see me, ask me. There was one teacher, kind and sweet, and want to give a hug like the one you're describing. I finally went to him and I said, I need you to do something for me. When you're on your break, I need you to pop in my office and say, Dr. A, did you eat today? That's all I need you to say. And he's, okay, I'd be happy to do that, because I was known for driving so much that I look up and it's, oh man, I brought my lunch, but I didn't even eat it. That is pitiful. And they're like, we're not going to be able to keep you around if you aren't also taking care of yourself. You've got to take care of you. So he would come in and ask me, Dr. A, did you eat today? And I'm like, nope, I'm eating right now. Don't you see me pull it out? He'd go, good job. And it was great because he was able to help me, and I was able to trust him with something that I wanted to improve. And he was willing to help support me in that. And we use that in some of our conversations around knowing what you need, asking for the help, being willing to help each other because the work is hard. And then in the principal seat, you're the only one in that seat. So in a lot of the work that I do encouraging principals, a lot of principals, and I love how you said it, think like a principal, but work like an AP. And I'm like, your school needs you, the principal, to sit all the way in your seat and lead, because there's nobody in that building that can. So you have to empower, and you have to support, and you have to collaboratively work as a unit to do the heavy lift. And like you said, with a collective vision, it can be done. And with the right belief system about who you're working with, who you're working for, and how you're going to approach the work, it can happen.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to ask about PLCs. Can we talk about PLCs for a few minutes? I apologize for my computer crashing. We see PLCs everywhere. I've never been to a school where the principal didn't tell me that PLCs meet and that they have PLCs. Of those, let's say 100 schools, maybe 10% of them have PLCs that use the actual 3 big questions, right? What do my students need to learn? How will I know if they've learned it? What will I do if they have? What will I do if they haven't? That is what a PLC conversation is about. If I were to walk into a PLC at your school, what would I see happening at any given moment?
I was thinking about this last night, and I was looking at our PLC agendas of now and years past. And I was like, no, that's really not it. That's not what makes it happen. I was thinking about, I've been to the solution tree training, and I've read the book, the PLC book. All those things are the right things. What I've realized is, this was kind of a reminder this year. We talked about it in July. A PLC is not what you do, and it's not a meeting you attend, and it's not an agenda. It is your people. So the best PLCs in my building, I have 2 in 6th grade that I could think of, that they just talk all day. They text, they're in the halls, they meet, they eat lunch together. And then one of those has for 2 consecutive years had the highest growth in the state, 6th grade social studies, the math team way up there as well. And it's just because they operate very differently from people who see their PLCs as a meeting once a week. I think a lot of us have a principal colleague or a supervisor that they're texting from the principal level, like somebody they go to bounce ideas off. And so the biggest thing, and I think this is very hard to do in an established school. I have some principal friends in this district, with the exception of 1 or 2, like they've not opened their own school. And so they're looking at their own PLCs that existed before they got there as principal, and they're looking at how to improve them. And I think it's about trust and vulnerability and sharing. So in order for 3 7th grade science teachers to work effectively together, they first of all have to let go. I made this, you made this. This took me 2 hours and you didn't do it. Do I want to share it? The focus has to be on, let's use the best materials for our students. We know the key PLC question is, what are students supposed to, how do I know if they've learned it? What are they supposed to learn? How do I know if they've learned it? That has been our school-wide driving conversation. And this is district-wide. I'll brag on Wilson County schools. This has been a 3-year journey. We have been using the revised classroom instruction that works. And we were supposed to just spend 1 year on it, but the first 2 years were just on learning objectives and success criteria. And that was a real education for the staff on this. And really for me too, I'll admit at first I was like, oh, come on, we're going to talk about objectives. We've been talking about objectives for years. Everyone knows what objectives are. And we did not. We did not. And we did not use success criteria. And if we did, it was like on the board. Same thing as the PLC that lives on the paper and doesn't translate out. So it has to be authentic. That conversation about learning objectives and success criteria was very powerful here. We spent a lot of time in faculty meetings looking at what it wasn't. It's on our walkthrough tool for 3 years. We've gone into classrooms and given feedback on this. Bringing that back to the PLC, the teachers have really refined that piece of what does the standard say and how do I need to drive the lesson. They built out some really great plans together. If you've had a PLC culture for a few years, you are no longer writing the playbook. It's there. It lives in the drive. You got all the plans. You just bring it up. So the work becomes less each year on how to create it, and it's more on how to refine it. And I have PLCs. It's every interview I do. We talk about PLCs. Any hire knows that PLC is an expectation here and that they are going to be supported by a team and they are going to be expected to contribute to a team. We have had a struggle in hiring in Wilson County. It's getting a lot better. But for a few years, as the post-COVID overhang years of 21 to 22, 22, 23, we were hiring many more unlicensed teachers, no student teaching background, no education background. Maybe they had a biology degree and they want to teach science. It's a totally different world. It's been challenging to figure out how to navigate that. But you have to lean on your veteran teachers in the building, and you have to sometimes address those attitudes like, hey, look, I know you worked really hard on this thing, and you've got a colleague coming in who doesn't even know what that thing is, but I need their kids to also experience that.
So you told me that every science 7th grade teacher is teaching the same, using the same strategy, lesson design. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I go to schools and that's not the case in many schools. In many schools, you'll have teachers who teach the same thing. And if I happen to be in her class, I learn it this way. If I happen to be in his class, I learn it that way. And it's the same subject. I feel as if, and I could be wrong, that's almost like the natural. As a teacher, I know what I'm doing. I know what I want to teach, how I want to teach it. And that person isn't me. And he might not have as good ideas as I have. Well, I know how I want to teach this, and I'm going to teach it well. And I know my kids, and I know what my kids need based on my experience with them. So I'm curious. I feel like that's a default, and that you have to create an expectation and a system to push this way of running things. So tell me a little bit about that.
So I can speak to ELA most confidently that I'm a high school English teacher. And yeah, at the beginning, we had lots of different things going on. And then sometimes you have to say, why? Like, why, if we're all teaching the Diary of Anne Frank, are we wasting time on 3 different teachers creating questions and lesson plans for that? Like, we could work together. But we're a PLC and that's what we do, right? And then I think you also have to say, okay, so I have 3 people doing this. Which is having the most successful student outcomes? Which teacher has been a level 5 growth? I mean, that's just the fact of it. For us, after a year or 2 of that, I knew this teacher is getting the results. They need to lead this PLC. Now, did I say everyone has to use her plans? No. So you just have to stay with that work. The district has been really powerful in this. The last 2 years, they've built out, developed instructional guides. It was hard at the beginning because we already built out our plan here at GMS. We're getting level 5 results, but I'm a team player and my teachers get to go build those guides too, along with some from the other middle schools. They work together on those at the district level. If it's really, really good and it's working, let's get it on the guide. Let's share it with the entire district. I believe every Wilson County middle school should be level 5. I believe if Gladeville's got some corner on the 6th grade science market, that we should share it so other kids can do that cool lesson and benefit. That's just my core belief. So those teachers that were crafting things, it was a communal effort. And now they've got such robust plans built out, and they're just the plans they create together and they're the plans they use. Now there's autonomy within that. I don't want to position myself as like the ultra micromanager. Sometimes this teacher has 3 sections of honors and they'll do these extension questions, these extension activities. and this teacher has really struggling learners and they'll have scaffolds, like all that should go in the plan. There's links for the scaffolded text. There's links for the higher order questions. We should be building that ship that we can all sail in any sort of waters, right? We've built it together. And what I do require is they can't lock everyone out of the drive and try to steal it and go to another school. Like they have to share it with the admin because this was a collective effort.
Build it collectively, use it collectively, feedback on it collectively, grow collectively. So good.
What about data literacy in a team? Sometimes you get a group of teachers together who aren't used to that, learning how to strategically, you don't have an instructional coach, right, at your school. You don't have Aaron Williams there to sit with your team and walk them through that. So how does one build that skill set within a group of teachers as a principal?
Well, first of all, I'd say you better hire intelligent assistant principals who get it. So that's been a non-negotiable for me. I've gotten to hire, one of my assistant principals just left to open her own school. I'm excited for her, but I would never hire anyone to help me support these teachers, knowing I don't have an instructional coach who wasn't really solid teacher who used data themselves. It's kind of a problem because two of my newer APs were like my top teachers in the building. And I know they know how to use it effectively. We've got to keep it at the center. Data literacy is hard because there's so many types of data. Like we also do RTI screening data. And I've created this year for the staff. I was asked to do it, but I believe in it. It just took a lot of work. I shouldn't say I did it. We did it together. My APs and I built out a school-wide data tracker with all the data in one place. And that has helped to see, okay, they're at the 57th percentile in iReady for reading. They're at a 2 for last year on TCAP. Here's their writing scores. They took a benchmark and they're at a 2+. What does that mean? I think it helps to see it all in one place, but you'd have to be in your professor mode and keep talking about it. Like I shared before, I've had to learn how to share it in a way that's not boring and non-engaging. It makes more sense to them. It's a hard landscape. We've got AMOs and double AMOs and growth scores and achievement levels. And there's a lot of lingo. And when you hire someone who's job embedded and they're coming from the workforce, they're really like, what are you even talking about? So you just got to kind of simplify and put a couple things. And then I've got some who want to be administrators and are attending the TVAAS roadshow trainings.
Yeah.
And we got to have all things in the school. But I think it's one of the biggest challenges. I hear from a lot of principals that I don't have time, which is interesting because we have to choose what we're going to do. A lot of administrators that I talk to will say, we're overrun with discipline and I just don't have time to get in classrooms, do data chats, make PLCs where I want them. And I would challenge everyone I know it sounds corny. If you have a fight, you have a fight. But if you focus on the right work and you demand of yourself that you have to put that in front and center, I promise the discipline will go down as a result of that focus. The kids will notice that, hey, these teachers talk about goal setting and learning all the time, and they're going to fall into that.
Thank you, Bethany, for clearly setting a vision of high expectations for yourself, for your administration, for your students. And you communicate it, you model it. It sounds like you've really built an army of learners across the board. Hearing what you said about your AP becoming a principal, your teachers becoming AP, it sounds like leadership is built in to everything that you're doing at your school. And we're excited to hear you speak as a featured presenter at our Leadership That Works learning community, part of our Making Schools Work conference. Thank you so much for joining us. We know they probably need you out there with probably 20 texts and messages about kids in the hallway and testing problems. We'll let you get back to that. Aaron, thank you for joining us.
It's always a pleasure.
Really appreciate your insights. And we look
Thank
forward
you both so much.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you in Tennessee. We'll be right in your neighborhood.
That's right.
We can visit. You'll have us for dinner.
Come out and visit the cornfield.
Go see the children of the corn.
I love it.
All right. We've got your new mascot set. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode brought to you by the Southern Regional Education Board. SREB is a nonprofit dedicated to improving education from pre-K all the way to PhD and into the workforce. Visit sreb.org for resources on instructional practices, teacher data, career pathways, and more. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at SREB-School Improvement and on Twitter/X and Instagram, both at SREB Education. See you next week.